Peace and love, kings, queens, and gods. You already know who it is, and in case you don't, I'm the Floating Yogi, and this is Floating Yogi's Book Club, brought to you by Yogi, Urban Yogic Wellness and Education, where we are restructuring how we see and engage in health and wellness in the community, one healthy habit at a time. So, we can use this time to, like I said, invite a friend. Matter of fact, invite about 10, because daggone it, it's about to go in. We reading how yoga works, and so far it's been an interesting story. And if you'd like to be part of the discourse, if you'd like to be part of the back and forth, I encourage you to slide on that link right there, courses.uedc.com, create an account, and on there you'll be able to access all the free services and ways to just, be a part of a community that's about bettering themselves. So, like I said, I'm going to use this time to invite some friends. Matter of fact, I'm going to invite more than 10. And I'm going to let my man, one of the people who helped me be me, help me do what I do, my dude DJ Tony, he's part of the crew too. He comes from a different world, a dimension where people are our greatest resource, and I encourage you to check out that world. It's phenomenal. See how he can be an awesome resource to you.
Hey y'all, I am Tony, and every morning I go live just to say that I love you, and we're going to take a few breaths, and we're going to say a quick prayer, real simple. And then after that I head on over to Huey.btc, and I clicked on that move the meditative button to join the growth gang. Next day you get a tag that says, hey, I'm glad you're part of the community. So we got a little accountability going on, a little breath work, some love. It's a good time.
And that's all you gotta do. Slide on, you can tap in. Hey, I moved and meditated. I am not bullshitting on my greatness. I am trying to move to a better state of well-being and be around a community of people who are dedicated to that as well. So, welcome, Shar Rocks. What up? So, like I said, some of the other people who helped me be me, helped me do what I do. We got my dude Brent, he's part of the crew too. Man, I encourage you to check him out for all your digital assets, or, again, see how he could be of service to you. He's got some pretty saucy techniques that got my stuff screaming pretty nice. Alright, we also got Lifeform. Their mats are fantastic. I got one over there. I got one rolled up, like not even really rolled up. It's folded up. It's folded up. And then I got another one rolled up, and then I got another one to practice on. Julie got one. It's a great space to get those on mat lessons, to build that awareness so we can come to spaces and places like this and take those on mat lessons off the mat and into our day-to-day life. Because that's truly how we benefit from the practices that we're doing. It's not just whatever your skill is or craft is, keeping it within that. Like, let's say you're an athlete. It's not about keeping your athleticism or the decision-making skills that you build in that sport just there. Bring it to your life. Bring some accountability in there and build up the confidence to know that you can withstand and hold those responsibilities and continue to grow. Right? Alright, let me fix this for a second. And like I said earlier, if you want to be part of the discourse, you want to be part of the convo, the back and forth in real time and not this delayed 30-second or whatever it is, I encourage you to sign up on that link, courses.uedc, and become part of the growth gang. What up, Kayla? We still gotta have that. We still gotta have a play date. Have the kids come over and everything. Fam's gotta get together. Anyway, we reading how yoga works, so you right in time. Chapter 19. So, a recap. She started changing the inside of the jail into the outside of the jail because she needs food, and she asked the sergeant for. He's not gonna give her food, so he asked the sergeant for a spindle and some yarn. I might be using the wrong word, but she wants to start weaving some rugs. She said the rugs that she'll create will be better than the ladies' rugs that she was staying at and working with. And kind of like in servitude too. and didn't like her anyway. It's time to make some adjustments. Let's make the inside of the jail like the outside of the jail. Let's create our own freedom. Let's stand in our accountability, on our responsibilities, take accountability for them, and make some change in our life. Moving forward. Chapter 19, or on page 119, that's ironic. Even for those who understand. First week of July. I want to check on something. I said to the captain at our next class, something about that idea of selfness. Go ahead, he said with confidence. He'd been practicing, I could tell, looking at the things around him, considering how completely different they might look and therefore be to other people or creatures, and realizing that it was really something in his own mind that made them what they were to himself. Yeah, that's right. At the end of the last chapter, she had the pen made of bamboo and asked him what this is, and he said it's a pen. She was like, it's not a pen. And then the cow ate it, and what is this? He still wasn't getting through for a minute, and it finally snapped after she snapped on him. The cow doesn't think it's a pen. The cow thinks it's food. My mind is turning this around and turning the things that I see into what I think I see. It happens a lot in conversation too, where the mind turns things around and we hear what we think we hear as opposed to what has actually been said.
The lesson that I keep telling my kids: just because you said it doesn't mean they heard it. And just because you heard it doesn't mean they said it.
Yeah, like for real. And next level to that, because I strongly support that. Next level to that is just because they said it doesn't mean it's what they mean. And just because you said it might not be what you mean. We have to be precise with our words. Isn't that one of the first books we was looking at? The 4 agreements?
The agreements.
Come on now. We just got to be precise with our words. It seems like that book is just coming back around with more precision. This is a problem that could be created, that I'm creating by being imprecise with my words. All right. When I say the idea of selfness is a mistake that we make all day long, I'm talking about everything around us, right? I mean, thinking that a pen is itself by itself, that your desk is itself by itself, and so on. I don't mean the idea of selfness just about yourself, right? Yes, of course, he said. But of course, it does apply to myself and to other people too, doesn't it? It was a statement, not a question. I let him follow his thought further. Rhetorical question, Farley. I don't know if y'all... Tony know about that.
I think I get the reference.
Yeah. Who was that? Super Troopers. I mean, I was thinking about it like we could take the corporal, for example. Or more specifically, the way that the corporal talks. Now, when I hear him talk, and he talks so slowly and simply, it drives me crazy. I can hardly remember the first half of one of his sentences by the time he's around to the second half. It really feels like he has got to go step by step, very deliberately, until he said what he has to say. And it annoys me to no end that he can't seem to make a leap or a twist of thought. But that same way of expressing himself, you see, might strike someone else as a very straightforward and reassuring. I would guess, for example, that his mother might see it that way. That's real. That's powerful right there. I like how he took that. It might not be what it is. The mind might be turning things around and brought it into speech, just like he was saying. But not even just speech, like going a little bit deeper, the cadence of it. and how comparing that to different people, how they would respond and how they would receive it. Everybody is different and everybody is different. Different strokes for different folks. Find your tribe. All right. And so, can we say that each person's mind is also making them see people around them and even themselves as they are? That people are no more themselves than things that are themselves by themselves. Perfect, I said. And I tell you something very important, although it's not really what we need to cover today. Do you remember back when we talked about the channels of the sun and the moon? About the two channels that run down your back on either side of the main channel? I recall, he said. They were the bad guys, full of bad thoughts, negative thoughts. And the more full they get, the more they choke, the more the choke points they cause. Right. And now you understand something more about them when you look at some thing around you and feel like it has to be itself by itself, that it can't be your own mind making it look the way that it looks to you. Then the thought winds in the sun channel are stirred up and start to choke the health and happiness. And that's when you look at people or their thoughts themselves. You see, in even at yourself, in your own thoughts, and feel like they are the way that they are by themselves, and not because your own mind is seeing them that way. Well, when it stirs up the winds in your moon channel and it starts to choke you. So the sun channel, when it starts to choke you, that's when you look at something around you and it feels like it has to be itself. Okay, I get that, because it's like the confidence and the fire. Hey, what up, Tierra? What up, Jamie? Welcome, welcome, welcome. So yeah, that's like the fire, the sun channel gets you excited. You wanna you're confident, you're reassured. And all right, let's see what the moon channel does. The captain looked for a moment like he'd eaten a very large lunch, but I gave him a minute or two to go over it again. And he swallowed largely once or twice and then seemed to achieve some kind of idea digestion. Right? That's cool. And then the question came. But most of us, and if you were right when you said we were born thinking this way, we think this wrong way all the time. He breathed. We do, I said simply. And it begins to choke us, even from the womb. Didn't you ever wonder what makes people get older? He stared at me as the implications began to dawn on him. And I left it at that for the moment, as the seed which would blossom into the most beautiful flower of all. But let's get back on track, I began. And I'm glad you brought up that things about the difference between how the corporal looks at you and how he looks at his mother. And just to check one thing on that, is the way that you see him right, or is the way that his mother sees him right? Pen or something good to eat? I asked, to point to the green bamboo stick on his desk. Depends on who's looking, he answers adoredly. Or you could say, he was showing off now, that the corporal is neither way by himself or both ways to different people. I raised an eyebrow in admiration and took him on further. She was like, oh, he's getting it now. He's getting the concept of it's not good or bad. It's not good luck or bad luck. We were reading a story, Journey to Power, and within the book, there's a story. It's about like a guy, he has a family and his farm. They're on the farm, and one day he finds a horse. It runs into his yard and won't leave the farm. So then he's like, all right. People walk by, they say, oh, wow, you got a nice horse. This thing is a stallion. Good luck, good luck. He was like, good luck, bad luck, who knows? Then the next week, his son starts trying to ride the horse, break the horse in, and his son falls off the horse and breaks his leg. Oh man, such bad luck. Oh my goodness. Oh man, that's so unfortunate that he's hurt. The dad says, good luck, bad luck. Who knows? Then, a week later, the government comes by and they're hosting a draft. They're taking all the able-bodied men to come and fight in war. They see the son with the broke leg and pass over him. Good luck, bad luck. Who knows? That's the story. So it's not about right or wrong. It's not about good and bad. It's about what is the story, what is the situation as it is, and how can I utilize this scenario for my growth, my betterment. And, maybe not just you, maybe those around you as well. Hopefully our spark, our idea, how we're looking at the world is greater than just us. Because that's when we truly have an impact, and that's when we start to see the world around us the way that we want it to be. We make the inside the outside. Oh, it's fire today, y'all. It's fire today. All right. But now, you see, when the things, now you see, when we get to things that we feel strongly about, things that are either really hurt us or make us feel really good, then that feeling that we are the way that they are by themselves from their own side, it gets very strong, you see, and it starts to cause a real problem. And then that's what we're calling misunderstanding in your world, as a seed in the idea of selfness. As it begins to take hold of your mind, even in the womb, graduates to a whole different negative way of thinking. There's something we call grasping. And the master explains grasping like this. Now we're dropping into the Yoga Sutras. 2:9. Grasping is a thought that comes on. Let me rewind. Grasping is a thought that comes on all of its own, even for those who understand, and then grows even stronger. I'm gonna run it back because it's a sutra. It's got a bar in there, right? We gonna go, but it's got a bar. Grasping is a thought that comes on it all of its own, even for those who understand, and then grows even stronger. You can understand that there's an attachment happening, and it can continue to grow. You can, I know I have control, and then the lack of control will continue to grow. Even if you know. You see, when something really annoys you, like the way the corporal speaks, then it's very difficult to keep in mind this idea that it's your own mind that's making you see it that way. Even if you really already understand this idea very clearly. If you stop and think about it, if you reflect on it, then you know that the way the corporal talks is actually just like the pen. Because ... I waited for him to fill it in. Because there's an example of the way his mother feels about the very same thing. She loves it, which proves that the way the corporal talks can't be annoying or can't be annoying or lovable from its own side by itself. My mind makes me see it as annoying. Her mind makes her see it as endearing, concluded the captain. Exactly. But we tend to forget all that when something makes us either very happy or very unhappy, and then that old misunderstanding comes up and almost automatically all of its own. We feel like the corporal must be irritating from his own side by himself, and not because our mind is making us see it that way. We grasp to that feeling. A lot of times it is the feeling we're grasping to. It's not necessarily the argument, because the argument is connected to not a pleasant experience with the person for the most part. And we typically like the people we're spending the time with. So we're just not focused on the right thing. We need a little redirection. And if you think about it, it's a lot easier to get upset if someone steps on your toe than if you stub it yourself. If you can't keep in mind that it's your own mind making you see the corporal as annoying, you might be able to stop yourself from getting upset. Choking your channels, hurting yourself, he added. Right. But even people who understand all this, they forget. And then their feelings start to escalate, start to get stronger. And then I paused. Later? He asked. Later. I nodded. Cook that for a week, and then we'll go on. And then we did our giving and taking in our regular poses, regular as clockwork. Isn't it fantastic how his practice is just building? It's not just, oh, let me give a whole bunch of stuff all at once. Nah, I'm going to give you this, you're going to do it right, and then I'm going to give you something else, and we're going to get it right, and then we're going to keep on adding on. Chapter 20, second week in July. I knew that this next class would be important. I knew it would take us to another level.
Wait.
Okay. That just.
Well, I was going back and forth, debating it, and then I was like, hold up. We didn't hop on at 8:30. We just went live at like 8:40, and we already did a full chapter. I'm like, you know what? That don't really matter. We can slow it down. We're ahead of schedule.
Let's rap about it, because that chapter had a lot.
Well, since you bring up that chapter had a lot, one of the main things that I do online is collect perspective. And I even made this person really mad the other day because they couldn't understand my perspective wasn't where the question was coming from. Or my perspective wasn't relevant to the question. And there's so many different perspectives on everything. But the only reason I stopped you was because of what you said. You mentioned what you mentioned. You mentioned something at the end that I was like, dang it, I can expand on. Later, let it cook for a week. Oh, regular poses. You mentioned about how it was building. Is that not normal? Is that not the way? Is there, like, why is it significant enough for you to mention it all?
Because most practices aren't necessarily building. I believe that's the way that it should be done, because then the person's mind's in alignment, their body's building in alignment, and their energy's building in alignment. Their stamina, their discernment, their focus, their energy. And a lot of times people don't have their own practice, and I believe that's when we start stepping into the driver's seat of our health and wellness. That's when we're start able to use these poses as something to assess the things that are happening, and not just assess but address, like actually fix some of the things that are going on with us. And a lot of times people just come to a class and they'll have someone tell them what to do, and that's great, but that really that's taking away one of the major factors of doing it in a building, like in an accumulation way. If someone's trying to build and accumulate, then it's like, all right, cool. I can take this little bit. It's okay. I understand the practice. Most people don't. It's a lot. Like, look at how thick this book is. And we just now getting to it. So that's the long short. Most people don't really have their own practice, and they'll just go to a class, and it's great to go to a class to get introduced to it. But when you're ready to, like, hold on, I am experiencing the benefits of it, and I do want to take it to the next level. How can I take some of these on-map benefits that I've learned from Lifeform and bring it into my day-to-day life? That's when the space is like this. That's when it's like, That's when you call UE about the program and send them an email about their teacher training coming up in February. That's when it's like, hold on, y'all got some workshops. The journey to Ashtanga. What is creating your own practice? What is a breath work? What is meditation? I know I'm supposed to clear my mind. No, you're not supposed to clear your mind. Let's not go in there with that mindset. Let's find another one. I got one for you. Why not go in with that mindset? We can talk about it. Like, it just makes such a difference how people are introduced and what their perspective of it is. And again, just like how we're talking about it, is no wrong or right. How I'm looking at it is what's more efficient and effective for the person. That's why we the growth gang. Hold on, I'll spill some water.
Remember to check out Yogi.dc for the daily meditation and accountability check-in.
Wow. Yes. Remember, daily. Meditate, vote, and share after you move, after you meditate. Go to the UE.dc stories and vote. Excuse me. Become part of the growth gang. Let people know that you are someone who cares about your health and well-being and you're taking actionable steps. And that there is a group of people who are out there to support you. All the services, free 99. All you got to do is pay attention. Ooh. Let's get to the book. All right, chapter 20, Fist and Lightning. Second week of July. I knew that this next class would be important. I knew it would take us to another level entirely. And I already read that part. I had the captain go through his first poses, and for the most part, I was silent, just counting out his breaths for him at a medium pace. I knew he would take this as a treat, and he'd feel fresh when our talks continued about how yoga really works. And so you see, our inborn tendency to misunderstand the people and things around us escalates to a new level. When something seems either very pleasant or very unpleasant to us, we lose control of ourselves. Even if we already have some understanding. And the last thing in the world we can do at that moment of emotion is to recall that it is actually our own minds making us see this thing the way that we do. Facts. We're stubbing our own toe, but we feel strongly that someone else must be stepping on it. We're grasping to that mistaken notion, and then this triggers very quickly a very wrong chain of events. As the master puts it, Patanjali's Yoga Sutras, Book 2, chapters verse 7 and 8. Assailed by what feels good, we begin to like things. Assailed by what feels bad, we begin to dislike things. That's relatively simple. If you really believe that someone has stepped on your toe, if you grasp to the notion that the corporal is irritating in and of himself, and not because your own mind is making you see him that way, then in the very next moment, you begin to feel strong feelings of dislike for this other person. And it works the other way too. The moment you grasp to the idea that another person is nice from their own side, by themselves, and not because your mind is making you see them that way, then you start to have strong feelings of liking them. So is it wrong to like things? Interjected the captain. I didn't say that. I didn't say that at all, I objected. Nor would the master even say that. We do like things. We should like things. All of us enjoy beauty. The beauty of a sunset, the beauty of a flower, the beauty of a young child's smile. And that here the captain's face fell strangely. Who could say it would be wrong to like it if the sergeant were cursed of his drinking and the corporal were freed of his lack of energy? Dun dun dun. Now he's turning it on the situation. Uh-oh. And who could say on the other hand that it's wrong to dislike the pain you feel in your back, or the pain being felt in the entire world at this moment? for the matter, and want to end them both forever? Why is it the very purpose of yoga, and you know that it is why we are here, and your heart tells you so? No, it is not the emotions of liking and disliking that are wrong themselves. Rather, it is a certain kind of liking and a certain kind of disliking. It is liking something the wrong way. It is disliking something the wrong way. It is misunderstanding pleasure or pain. It is a feeling that pleasure or pain happens by themselves from their own side. It is grasping to them, desperately this way, forgetting that they even appear to you as they do only because your mind makes them see them as the pleasure or pain. There was a long pause. But I don't really see the difference, said the captain. Pleasure or pain, whether it exists out there by itself, from its own side, whether it's something that my own mind is making me see, we still like the pleasure and dislike the pain just the same. Not the same, I hissed. And it felt as if Katrine had taken over my mouth, my mind, and my very being. If you stub your own toe, I said, you don't stand to strike your own face with your fist. The captain stared at me in a trance. It all began to dawn on him. I'm just going to pause right there.
But I thought it already dawned on him. She already used that analogy.
It's the analogy. That analogy just dawned on him. That joke just hit him. He finally got the point that the emotion is void of the action when it's not attached to another person. When you're not playing the blame game. When you're playing the blame game, you're trying to pin fault on someone else so you don't have to deal with the situation, so you can become the victim or the person. So now he's seeing how having that perspective allows him to hold on. This creates a little bit of space. I can feel the emotion. I can have the awareness, and I can choose a response. He can actually have that, I don't want to say space between trigger and response, but he can have that moment they were talking about earlier in the book when she said that you are unable to be aware in the moment when the emotions are flaring.
Too much happiness or unhappiness will take over.
Okay. Power attracts power. When one tree grows tall above the other, lightning comes to strike it. And so, as the captain and I were on the verge of understanding how yoga really works, things fell apart. The sergeant went out in the late evening and didn't return for hours. When he did, he was sleeping, but I heard him come in. He didn't go into the room on his side to sleep. Instead, he sat down on the bench there against the wall. The moon was out, and a pale light was coming through my window surrounding me. And although he was in the dark beyond the moonlight, I could hear him, drinking slowly from a jug and setting it back on the bench, and then drinking again. I could feel his eyes upon me as he drank. And then there was a shuffle, and he got up to his feet. A thrill of fear went through me. He walked up close to the bars, and I could see his tortured face and the red glow of his eyes and the shadow of the bars throwing dark black lines across his body. And then his hand was on the crossbars, and he slid it open and came to me. I scrambled up and crouched there on the floor, nowhere to run this time. He breathed. He started towards me, and I backed into the darkness of the corner, still crouching like a cat. He stood there in the moonlight and tapped his stick on the floor. "Out here, girl," he said, his tone growling, ugly. "You know what this feels like?" He struck the stick once more to the ground with a loud crack. I shook my head. I saw the very end of my long black hair bush through the edge of the moonlight, and then, before they settled back on the end of his stick, flew out and thrust straight into my belly. I cried out in pain. "Out here now!" he roared. I was shaking all over. I could hardly think, but I knew I would not move an inch to him while I still breathed. The stick made that sickening whoosh through the air and caught me across the face. The blood wet my lips. I licked it dumbly. Long Life began to bark furiously on the other side of the wall. Now! Now! He was screaming, and the stick flew again and came to me in a haze, and I had to cover up like Basuku had said to do. And more blows came, but it turned and crawled into the corner, and then he tore at my hair with his hands, and chunk ripped out, but I curled up tighter with my hands around my hair and my dress, and Basuku screaming, Ravi, Ravi, what are you doing? And then the stick just kept coming down. Whoosh, whoosh. One after another on my back, and the sergeant is raging, cursing, and Long Life is howling in pain for me, and Basuko is tearing at the bars of his cell and crying, No, no, no. But I just go quietly into my mind where the master's short book lies, and began to sing the verses softly to myself to the rhythm of the blows. And I was somewhere in the second chapter, I remember, when he stopped from sheer exhaustion and dropped the stick and stumbled back to his room and fell asleep. Well, then. It's interesting how silence and tragedy sometimes share the same address. Chapter 21. Truly everything is suffering. Let's see. Can we get through this chapter? I think so. Yeah. Oh, yeah. Truly everything is suffering. Third week of July. When the captain came in with the morning light, the corporal took him silently by the arm and brought him to the door of my cell, still thrown open, and was curled up, but I had fallen out of the corner onto the floor near the stick. I opened my eyes. I could see the captain's feet, and there was a voice, Basuku's voice, but it sounded like the voice of a king, not a criminal. Captain, he said evenly, if you possess within you still any single shred of integrity, then you will discipline your man. Now. I heard the captain's breath catch his throat. I saw his hand come down near my face and close around the stick. The knuckles were white, pure white. And then I could hear the captain dragging the sergeant out of the side room with silent rage, and the sergeant protesting weakly, half asleep still, and then he was thrown to the floor beside me, gasping for breath. I could see his face down there, close to mine, full of fear, trembling. Sergeant, stand up. He just closed his eyes and shook his head. I still couldn't move. All I could see of the captain was his feet, and at the end of the stick, that evil thing against the floor. Stand up and remove your shirt. That's an order. Now, screamed the captain. The sergeant didn't even open his eyes. The captain's hand came down on his collar and ripped the shirt off his back in a single burst of rage. I saw the end of the stick come up off the ground. I said to the floor, no, and tried to turn my head up. And I did. And saw the captain's terrible face and the stick poised in the air. No, I repeated, looking him in the eye, and his anger turned to me. Silence! No, I will not be silent, I whispered. I am your teacher, and I say no. Put the stick down. The blood drained the rage in his face to a pure fury. I am in charge here. I am the captain. I'm the captain now. No, I said again. Remember your yoga. Remember what makes you see him like this. I have seen, I see, I can see, he roared again, and the stick came up and threw my body forward over the sergeant's. I covered him like a child, and I felt the warmth there amidst the trembling and the stink of liquor. Get up off him! It didn't even sound like the captain now. The voice was high, hysterical, like a boy lost in a tantrum. Remember your yoga, I cried out once again. Remember this, and the stick came down hard against the floor, within an inch of my head. And all I can do was hear the captain sobbing now. And he sucked his breath in once, just once, and screamed with all his might. Down! Well, I don't do that loud. You can't sleep. Down! And the stick came down on my back once. You're a second time. Yoga a third time. Hold up. Damn. Okay. And the stick came down on my back once. You're a second time. Yoga a third time. And my eyes were shut dark in the pain. But I heard him throw the stick down and run outside towards the road, sobbing in pain. And there was a precious little warmth below me, safe, and the warmth of the new blood coming down my back. And I took my rest within the warmth. And after a while, in the silence, the sergeant stirred and he crawled out from beneath me to the door and out of my cell. And he stayed there on his knees and turned around and stared at me, grasping the bars with his forehead up against them, as if we were the same inside, as if I were on the outside. I closed my eyes and went back to the master's book, the place I'd left off the night before, and it said, truly, every part of our lives is suffering.